well, and thanks for joining us. Now, as you have heard from my introduction, the ANC and the EFF want all three elections to be held on the same day, presumably in 2024. Now, the obvious question arises, why now? Why all of a sudden?
Well, it's not really all of a sudden. I think for the longest of time, we've heard South Africans basically saying that there needs to be an electoral reform, right? As you've rightly put, there's two sets of elections. And the first set of elections, which is national and provincial elections, it's a purely PR system. So people vote for a political party to get to parliament, to become president. So they only vote for a political party. But at local government, people are able then to also vote for independent candidates, meaning people who do not come from a political party can be voted for. Now, for a while, a lot of South Africans have been questioning, why can't they vote for a direct person to go to parliament instead of having a party system there? And that is where we had this New Dawn movement, who then took the matter to court and challenged the constitutionality of the Electoral Act as far as the contestation of elections by independents for national and provincial elections, and that's how they won.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then this brought about very much discussion, brought back the discussion on electoral reform within South Africa, whether South Africa's electoral system is sufficient to meet the requirements and the needs of the voters. And obviously, from what the Constitutional Court said, it was not sufficient. Now, what this then means is that the IEC now has to put in place systems that are going to make sure that when a person wants to participate at national and provincial elections as an independent candidate, that they are able to do that within obviously the parameters of the criterion and the law that is going to be set out. And that is basically how the EFF and the ANC have then looked at this as an opportunity to harmonize the electoral process. If you remember, perhaps you may know that Zimbabwe already is doing something similar to that.
Mm-hmm.
When national, provincial, and local government elections take place all on one day. And there have been arguments that say that would be beneficial to the country, because let me just give you an example. For voter registration, one voter registration weekend, the country spends almost about 40 million per registration weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Now, towards the local government elections, you've got about two, if I'm not mistaken, two, not three targeted voter registration periods. Now, it means that in that period of one election, you've spent close to around 100 million on a voter registration process. Now, how much more does that come to when you have to do it every 2 years, every other year? How much money gets into that process?
Yes.
And that's voter registration. We haven't looked at voter education. We haven't looked at the whole process of the election, as it were.
Mm-hmm. But
Yeah.
Mr. Raheem, if this large if it does go forward and all three elections are held on the same day, we understand that large parties will save a ton of money on campaign, right? But surely this would adversely affect those smaller parties because these bigger parties would merge their campaigns at different levels into one national campaigns. So will this then not affect the smaller parties contesting elections only at local level?
I do not hold the view that they would be affected, and let me tell you why I say that. If you're a political party that is contesting, one thing about the South African electoral system, particularly at local government elections, is that it's been highly beneficial to political parties that are smaller. When a political party is only registered to contest in an election, they are able to concentrate their efforts in that particular area where they are contesting. Perhaps the argument could be that it could be a bit strenuous when the smaller party now suddenly wants to play in the bigger political arena, and financially they're not able to do that. Then it becomes a different discussion altogether, because then they may suffocate because obviously resources for campaigning are not going to be available. So it's a whole completely different dilemma. But political parties that are registered to contest locally would benefit immensely from that. Another factor that also then comes to play, if that should ever happen, would be how will independent candidates, how big, how long is the ballot paper going to be? because now you're going to have a large number of independent candidates. People who would generally contest in a ward election will now be able to excuse me, contest for a seat. I'm sorry about that. Would then be able to now contest for a seat at national and provincial, for national and provincial seats.
Mm-hmm.
And then that becomes a completely different ball game, because the IEC would then have to work out in terms of criteria and in terms of how many seats how many votes they will. So it's a whole lot of different administrative process. The ANC and the EFF, obviously, as political parties, can actually come together and put that discussion forward in Parliament, and then Parliament would then have to consider it. Then it would be approved. But for now, it is just simply talk and speculation that this would be ideal. In terms of the country, for the country's fiscal, this would be ideal.
Mm-hmm.
For planning, better planning purposes for the IEC, absolutely it would be ideal. It would be ideal also for the voter, though it would take a lot more voter education around that. It would take a lot more, but it would also be ideal. For smaller political parties, I think the biggest challenge is that most political parties face in South Africa is that they're not able to target their campaigning messages correctly.
Mm-hmm.
A political party such as the ANC, for example, can say that their focus is service delivery and a better life for all, because they're a larger political party. Now, then other political parties need to be able to allocate themselves within what is happening in the country and speak a message that is able to resonate with people without necessarily having to compete with what the ANC is saying or ridiculing what the DA is saying, for example. So once political parties are able to streamline their messages in the communities and in the way that actually appeals to voters, then they'll be able to get larger streams of people coming in to vote for them.
Mm-hmm. Very quickly, Mr. Raheem, we have spoken about campaigning and independent candidates in smaller parties. Let's very briefly talk about damage control. Should the next municipal election be held in 2021 and not in 2024 as desired by the ANC and the EFF, it could pose a possible challenge for the two parties, as they could not yet successfully address the negative consequences of the 2016 municipal elections. Talking about the ANC in particular, we saw that the ruling party lose its absolute majorities in Johannesburg, in Tshwane, in Nelson Mandela Bay, and in fact even in Ekurhuleni metros. So do you think this is perhaps why the call for all elections to be held on the same day in 2024, particularly by the ANC, as a form of damage control?
I think if we have to look at the trajectory of all political parties, liberation movement rather throughout the continent, you'll find that after 20 years, they go on a steady decline. And the reason why they go on a steady decline is because, number one, the voter has changed. The mindset of the voter has changed. Voters have become younger. Aspirations of voters have changed. Whereas 20 years earlier, people wanted freedom. People wanted to be able to have comfortable jobs. So now the direction moves. Now, the decline, what I'm trying to say is that the decline of the ANC is not only unique to the ANC because of the challenges that it faces. It happens with all African liberation movements, because for some reason these political parties are no longer able to meet, to talk to address the aspirations of the younger voter, who then becomes a big player in elections after about 20 years. Right. Now, if the damage control, if the purpose is for damage control, as long as they're not able to talk to and satisfy the aspirations of the younger voter, it would still not be in their advantage. In fact, one can actually even say that it would put them even more in the back burner, because they would still not be able to interpret and understand the messages of the younger ANC members or the younger people or electoral members that are coming up. They would still not be in a position to be able to address them. So the biggest issue that the ANC and possibly even the DA face is to be able to go to appeal to younger voters and be able to meet the aspirations and the needs of younger voters, instead of saying the same thing over and over again. They are preaching to a different crowd. They're no longer preaching to older members of the ANC, and they need to be able to start talking in a language that the younger crowd understands.
Definitely. Mr. Raheem, we have run out of time, but I do thank you for your time this morning, and thank you for this engaging conversation.
Thank you very much for having me.
There was, of course, Ms. Lulu White-Raheem, the founder and CEO of the Elections Management and Consulting Agency, providing us with an analysis on who stands to win or lose should the ANC and the EFF's call to hold all three formats of election be held on the same day in 2024. And this brings us to the end of the Wednesday edition of News and Views. But before we conclude, I'm joined in studio by Mariam Makwanda to discuss what's upcoming on her show at 11 a.m. Assalamu alaikum, Mariam. Thank you for joining me in studio.
Mohammed, it's a pleasure to be here and with you in studio. All right, so coming up on the show today.
I think we're just experiencing some technical difficulty. Shazia is walking the studio just to sort out Mariam's microphone. But yes, definitely you have to tune in to the Mariam Makwanda show at 11 a.m. And yes, Mariam, what can we expect at your show this morning?
All right, can you hear me now?
I can.
I guess that's the famous line because of this pandemic. But anyways, coming up on the show today, I'm going to be talking to Lila Letemba Stwayi, who is an attorney at the Center for Child Law. And today we're going to be talking about something a little different, which goes unspoken of a lot. It's child sex offenders. What happens when children molest and abuse other children, and how does the law protect the victims as well as the child sex offenders?
I stand to be corrected. There's a story that's trending on social media this morning about sexual assault from one child to another. Yes, so that's certainly a discussion to look forward to.
Definitely, and that will be coming up at 10 past 11. At 11:35, it is our fitness and for the health and fitness segment rather, and today we're focusing on exercise for a healthy heart. And the guest for today is a fitness trainer, Anisa Kathrada. We all want to be healthy, and why not go down the route of having a healthy heart first before trying to get our summer bodies. So a healthy life equals
it's all
to
about prioritizing.
Yeah, of course, but your priorities should be a healthy heart first.
Definitely.
And then we have Empowered with Mehreen Mia Kasimji, who's a motivational speaker as well as a life coach. She's based in Durban, so we do a live stream with her there. And we end off the show today talking to Dr. Salim Chunara, who is a urologist, and today we'll be discussing prostatitis.
I can't say that word.
Yeah, I was like, what? Like, okay, prostatitis, the symptoms, the causes, the diagnosis, and treatment. And this is something for the men. But obviously, we do have women out there who have partners, who have siblings, male siblings, and this could be something of interest as well, because, there's a whole lot of things that goes on in our bodies that we have no idea what it could be. And it's always great to have a professional to help us out.
There we go. That's the Mariam Makwanda show coming up at 11 a.m. An action-packed show, as always, produced by Salailo Makwadiri and presented by Mariam Makwanda herself. That's the Mariam Makwanda show coming up at 11 a.m. Be certain to tune in. But from myself and the entire production team this morning, until tomorrow, it is goodbye and assalamu alaikum.
Tune into Salam Media via audio stream or watch live facebook.com/Salam Media.
This